Hey, mi gente, I'm Julian Steve. If you are new here, nice to meet you. If you are a return viewer, thank you so much, mi gente. Today, we're going to be talking about a subject I wanted to cover months prior, but I felt very uncomfortable to do this by myself. Today, my friend Kayla and I, we're going to be talking about cultural and racial identity politics. But before we go any further, please make sure to like the video and comment, talk, etc. You all know how this works, okay? Damn, these birds are talking too much. Okay, on to the video. Hey Kayla, so tell everyone where your family's background and yours, of course. Your
Okay.
favorite.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Kayla, and I've been here before. And thank you, Julian, for having me on your platform again. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and talk about what's going on in the world and the Black culture and the Black Caribbean culture. I have a background of my mom is Trinidadian and my dad is Grenadian. My grandmother's also Trinidadian and my grandfather's also Grenadian. So that's like two generations, I believe, of Trinidad and Grenada. So that's where culturally I resonate with and I would say I consider myself a Caribbean American. Majority of my younger life has just been being able to soak up all that Caribbean culture and the heritage, and in terms of like the music, like soca, and eating like traditional foods, like for example, like pilau and sorrel and everything. So basically, that's what I resonate with as a Black Caribbean. That's just a small percentage of everything that I've experienced. How about you?
Yeah. Hey everyone, I'm Julian. I was born and raised in the Bronx, but both of my parents are from Honduras. My mom is from U.S.A, Honduras, and then my father, he's from the capital of Honduras. I do not know how to pronounce it, so I'm not even going to butcher it right now. Um, my family and I, we identify as Black because we are Black, in case you do not know that. And but we also Latinos because my parents come from a Latin American country, and but we're not, keep in mind we're Black. So for the most part, depending who I talk to, they either do not believe that I'm Latino, or they just tell me I'm not Latino because I do not speak Spanish, or because I'm Black, or because of numerous ignorant things. So I ended up identifying as Afro Latino, and for the most part, my family identifies as Afro Latino or a Black Latino or a Black Hispanic, Afro Honduran or Honduran. It just all depends. And then, of course, in case you do not know, in Honduras and numerous other countries in within the it's so Central America, sorry. Within Central America, the Black populations within those countries, they identify as Ganifua too. And that's basically the African roots that we identify as. My family, we do not identify too much with it, but we are Ganifua. So, Kayla, I would like to ask you a question. So when you was growing up, what people labeled you or your family?
We were labeled and we identified as Caribbean American. That's
Okay.
what we identified as. And now that you talk about it, I can see that there's been a great change in how we identify ourselves now, because back then I was more into the culture and I was young, so I was soaking up all the culture. And because of me being young, that means my parents are younger too. And that means my
Yes.
grandparents are younger. So they were still in the midst of like their prime in a way of like Caribbean culture and still recognizing and acknowledging and carrying the heritage they had before. But now I feel like I consider myself and I still identify with Caribbean culture and being a Black Caribbean, a Caribbean American, but I resonate now with more Black American culture.
Yes.
Because I feel like my family and I have assimilated a little bit too much to American culture.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very discouraging, you know, it's very discouraging. But when you go to the doctor and if I see any forms, they ask me, am I Black American? I will choose that, unfortunately. But I think I told you this before, where one time I went to my primary doctor and it was the first time ever where I saw Black Caribbean or Caribbean American.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I was like, I'm checking that box because that's what I am. Initially, that's what I am. But in terms of resonating and identifying right now, I feel like I've assimilated so far into American culture that I don't feel that same feeling I felt when I was younger, where I was completely submerged with people who have the same background as me, grew up the same way, eat the same food. And it doesn't mean that I dislike the Black American culture, because there is, whether people want to announce or not, a difference between Black Caribbean culture and Black American culture. There is a difference. But I wish I still could have held on or still have some. And not to take any responsibility out of myself, but I had to acknowledge, because of my grandparents being older, and my grandfather has passed recently, like rest in peace to him.
Rest in peace.
My grandma's getting older. She can't cook the way that she wants to, or cook as much as she wants to. And my family, you know, my grandma had 5 kids. Their kids have kids now, you know, so everyone's so spread apart that we're still a tight-knit family, but we're still so spread apart and everyone's in their own world that it's hard to really hold on to the culture I was grew up with. So it's, as a person, as an individual of my own, I didn't have the luxury or have the chance to still have that deep culture of Trinidad and Grenada, because where am I going to get it from? All my aunts and uncles, they're spread apart. They're dealing with their own stuff. So, and with that being said, they're assimilated into American culture themselves. So it's really sad, but the best that I could do, I've noticed, is I do my own research. I'm older now. I can go back to Trinidad and Grenada and try to get in touch with my distant family members. Hopefully I learn something new, but that's what I've noticed so far.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing, Kayla. Yeah. And for my story, this is going to probably sound funny to some people, but I don't remember certain things that happened to me when I visited the hospital. So I can't even go into details like how Kayla did about her hospital experiences. And I feel like it's because I mostly had traumatic experiences at school. So I know it's sad, but I just find it funny now. Oh, it's fine, Kayla. Thank you so much. No, but I find it so funny now because it's like it helps me to make videos like these and educate people. So in a way, I'm grateful for it, but you know, it's also a curse in a way. So what happened was growing up, especially when I was in middle school and high school, usually my teachers and most faculty members, and I know they didn't, well, hopefully they didn't meant it that way, but usually when it comes to Black people, they would just group us as Black American, even though that's not my background. So I kind of, while I knew what I was, like my background, all that stuff, there were times where I felt like I was not my actual background, because people treated me as if I'm not a Latino at all. They
Yeah.
would just group me automatically as African American, Black American, and sometimes some people even say that I was Jamaican, I was Haitian, like predominantly Black countries, because they assume, even though, which is dumb, because America is not predominantly Black. We all know that,
Yeah.
but Jamaica and Haiti, it's predominantly Black countries, and they would put me in those countries because they would see me as that, because I don't look Latino, yeah. Even though we all know being Latino and Hispanic is ethnicity, is not a race, but they didn't see me as the same. They always told me straight up that I was African American, Black American. That was it. I'm specifically speaking on the teachers and faculty. They would just automatically put us as African American students. That's it. And then it's crazy too, because you would think they would know more, because they've been in the education system for. I mean, they've been in the education system for a while. They have degrees, but I'm telling you guys right now, a degree sometimes does not mean shit, because some people don't know what the fuck they doing or not. And yes, I know it's not their fault, because we do not get taught too well about geographically other countries.
Yeah.
So people have an assumption, and why that is not their fault, it is at the same time, because you gotta learn how to educate yourself and not be ignorant.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm telling you guys. It's not only just people who didn't went to school, because some people be saying, "Oh, it's because they didn't went to school, they didn't learn this or this or this." No, that's not true, because there are even people who have a degree, they don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. And then, if you thought the teachers and the faculty in general were ignorant, imagine the students. The students, for the most part, and keep in mind, these were Latino and Hispanic students. Most of them, specifically the non-Black ones, and even a few Afro-Latinos, they told me that I was not a Latino because A, I'm dark-skinned, B, I don't talk proper Spanish, because my Spanish is butched. It's bad. My Spanish is horrible. Three, I do not have a stereotypical Latino Hispanic look. That too, as well. That also plays a factor. Oh no, this one pissed me off the most. I have a accent when I talk or something, stupid shit like that, and I'm like, you do know that everyone speaks a different dialect, right? We do not all speak the same. And also, if you didn't know about my background, I happened to struggle with speech problems where I was growing up. So it's like, not only you saying that I sound like I have an accent just because I mispronunciate a word in English or in Spanish. And I know some people, they'll do it intentionally, but some people, they did it in a way to diminish my Blackness and my Latino-ness. Because I'm not doing that on purpose, though. It's because I actually have a speech problem. Or sometimes I just don't know how to say stuff because some words are hard to pronounce. Like, what do you want me to do? It's like, what do you want me to do? I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. But it's like everyone always wanted me to be perfect back then, especially the Hispanic and Latinos back then. And then now this comes with the Afro-Latino part. So when it comes to the Afro-Latinos that I grew up with, not all of them, but some of them, they will use anti-Black shit against me because one, I was darker than them, but two, when it comes to mixed race Afro-Latinos, not all of them, but some of them, they think they better. And they will try to distance themselves from people like me who are phenotypically Black with two Black parents. They will distance themselves and be like, "Oh, I'm not you. I'm not that type of Black," because they know they have a privilege. They know that we're not the same. And then that's why I always advocate this on my channel. But then we all know there are people try to call me crazy or try to shut me up, but I'm not going to shut the fuck up. That's why this video is happening. Yep. But they will try to distance themselves from me and other Black people because we are, we Black. We just we're not the same. And then they will try to go with their Latino friends, the non-Black Latinos. on their own section and stuff like that. But yeah, that's pretty much like a broad of what I went through with the naval stuff. But yeah, for the most part, I always knew my background, but people always told me something else. And then when it comes to my family, we know about our heritage and stuff like that. But the thing is, my mom, not my dad too sometimes, but back then they used to always say I was quote unquote a African American because I was born here. But the thing is, I always knew I wasn't, because one, being an African American or a Black American, that's an experience. That's a heritage. That's not some type of thing just because you're a Black person born in America. And I feel like a lot of people think that, but that's not how it works. You have to be descended from child slavery in the United States. If you're not descendants from child slavery in the United States, you're not a Black American. And I feel like when I try to say that, it comes off as mean. But I'm just being honest. That's just my opinion. And that's the opinion of most African Americans or Black Americans on YouTube, because I've seen them talk about their experiences and how they feel like they don't like it when us children from immigrant parents say that we are African American or Black American just because we were born in this country. But at the end of the day, that's not our heritage. That's not our background. Like, I hope I'm making sense. Am I making sense, Kayla?
No, I understand what you're saying. Like,
okay,
basically, like I was saying before, I identify as a Caribbean American.
Yes.
In terms of culture, right now in this moment, I resonate with the Black American experience,
exactly.
You know what I mean? But that doesn't, in terms of identification of like heritage, that's not my heritage. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's,
no,
you have to have that. You have to be able to differentiate between those things and have that sense of like nuance. Like, you have to know the difference between that. So I do understand where, if I never heard anyone say that, but I believe you, you know what I mean? I've trust your judgment where you're saying like Black American people get irritated, where Caribbean American people are saying, we're Black American. We're not really like Black American, or in terms of African American. But I would say like we really had to put the blame on the people who are putting these forms out, because we don't have control of like who's putting us in these slots. We don't have control. Like let's be honest. When we used to do the Iowa test, remember that, the Iowa test and the state test, and they say other, I doubt anyone is putting Black Caribbean. We would just check off African American. But now knowing better, maybe we would go back and say, oh no, we're Caribbean American. But at the time, they put us in these slots to say Black American. So we just assumed that's what we were supposed to do. But I definitely agree. I can understand why people would be frustrated saying like, whoa, you're Caribbean American. Black American is a different distinction, you know? Yeah,
because like with me, you see, you just hit the ball, because that's exactly what I was going to talk about too. Like, people do not understand that back then when you take exams and stuff like that, or even when you go to the hospital, like till this day too, they don't put too much specification on where you actually from, like what identities you could identify as. Because, for example, like at my school, they will put Black, and then they put and all African American, because they would identify like Black as like in general anyone who is Black, and then they would put the ethnicity of the race plus the ethnicity of African American. So logically, I'm gonna put that box because I'm Black, but that doesn't mean I think I am a Black American or African American. But of course, there are times I would have thought I was, because people would put me in those bubbles, and then when I correct them, they look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, am I crazy though? Am I crazy? Because it makes sense what I'm saying. And then also, it's like what Kayla said. We did not intentionally did that. It was the system that taught us this is where you go. Because at the end of the day, you're Black.
All Black people are Black African American. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it.
Where I could be wrong, but African American, I would assume, is people who literally came from Africa, the continent, and then they came to America. If anything, that's the most correct, I guess, and the most like clear distinction. Or Black American, if you know, if you want to go into deriving from, deriving from, you know, ancestry from Africa, whatever. I mean, I guess we all are from Africa in some way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In that sense, I can see why. But if they want to be in terms of generational, like right now, the last couple generations, they don't have enough, like literally like boxes. They don't put that there. They don't. So what are we supposed to do? You know, like where are we supposed to go? I never had an experience where I guess people questioned where I was from. Like, unfortunately, I'm sad that you did have that experience. I don't think I've had too much. I'm trying to think if I had too much of that experience. Not necessarily.
Okay.
Since I was young and pre-K to middle school and high school, I went to literally the most niche, small sector. Like, I went to private school all my life, majority.
Wow.
I went to private SDA, 7-day Adventist Christian, Black Caribbean school since pre-K to 12th grade. So I've only known Caribbean. It was so much. I told someone before, it was so much that I might sound ignorant, but I didn't even know there was like Black Americans. Because I was so young. I was like, everyone's Caribbean. I thought everybody. So it was like when I first met someone.
No, I'll blame you, Kayla, because there were a time like because certain friends of mine, and I'm not trying to bash anyone, but this is the truth. This is my story. This is real. I had a few friends when I was in elementary school, middle school, and high school that are Black Americans, but they were embarrassed to acknowledge that they were Black Americans because they felt like they didn't have a culture, and we all know that's bullshit. Black Americans do have a culture.
Yeah, they do.
But back then, society they would diminish Black Americans and see them as like they'll have no culture at all.
Yeah.
And then there will even be some Black people from the diaspora diminishing Black Americans and you know, instigating it. And I'm like, I always knew I was fucked up, but you know, as a kid, you think things are good or whatever, but I never made fun of them because I can always speak for my end, but I do know that there were certain people that did make fun of them. And then I feel like that's why some Black Americans, they were embarrassed to admit that they were Black Americans because of that. And then they ended up saying that they were Puerto Rican, you know, a Black Puerto Rican, or they would say, my great grandfather from Jamaica, you know, some shit like that. And I'm like,
I ain't gonna lie, I used to get so annoyed with that. Like, just say who you are. Stop trying to. Don't do that. You know.
Exactly.
But yeah, it is true though that kind of shame. That shame was also in a lot of Caribbean countries as well. Not taken away from them, but the fact that people have that sense of shame of where they're from is sad. But I know some people like who were Black American and literally like I couldn't fathom it when I was younger. I'm like, no, where are you from? I'm from here. And I'd be like, no, like, where are you from? Like, like, I'm from here. Like, your mom from here, your grand. I'm like, and I used to be like, wow, like, that's sad. I used to say that. I'm like, wow, that's really sad. And like, but I didn't know better. I didn't know better. I was just like, wow, like, I couldn't fathom the idea that people were not Caribbean because all my life I've been around Caribbean Black people. So when I seen a Black person, I assumed you were just Black Caribbean. But there are people who are not Black Caribbean, and that is okay.
Exactly.
They have their own culture outside of Caribbean. Caribbean people are not the only Black people out here. You know what I mean? So it's just like I do understand it now. You know, as I'm older, I'm not a kid anymore. Like, you know, there are people, and then they're ashamed of it, and then they even said it themselves. So I'm like, yeah, and you could see that sense of like, you know, uncomfortability because I'm questioning them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm really questioning their identity. And now that I say that, If I ask them, where you from, I'm Black, I'm like, oh, okay. I'm just gonna say, oh, okay. I'm not gonna go any further and say no where, because in some way, even though some people, they're not angry, but I understand now that it's inappropriate. So it's just like, let me not do that, you know. But some people, they're literally just from there.
Kayla, I'm so thankful that you shared this story because this is real. This does happen in real life. This does happen because I've had a few friends that actually no, not even. I can't even. I mean that basically I could only speak for like the YouTube part of it because like I told you guys, my friends that are Black Americans, they usually do not really talk too much about it. They thought like, oh, it's embarrassing to say, oh, I'm a Black American, and they all say I'm from here, and then you don't go into further details on where your family's from, and then that affected them, and then they ended up not really talking to us because they used to get annoyed every time when people kept asking them. So you can share a story about that or no?
I was about to say something, not to cut you off, but
no, it's fine.
It's like, as Caribbean people, when we hear someone else is from the Caribbean, there's a connection automatically. Whether we like the person or not, you could tell their face light up like, oh yeah, you from the Caribbean? Like, where? Mm-hmm. I even went to like one of my jobs, I'm like, oh, I'm asking, what's your nationality? And I'm like, oh, I'm from this, I'm from that. I'm like, it's an automatic relatability connection. Like we're sharing this experience, even though we have different cultures. The bigger culture is that we're Caribbean. We're from the West Indies. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So we know, but then I feel like people notice that and they're like, it's like hard for them. It's like they're feeling excluded. And I can't talk for them. I could be wrong. I'm not Black American. I'm not, disclaimer, I'm not speaking for any of them. I am not. But I'm just assuming, it could be good or bad, I'm assuming, but I'm just trying to find a way to understand and try to use empathy to try to figure out, try to put my foot in their shoes and see how it may feel. Because this is what I'm seeing as a Caribbean people is an automatic connection. So I'm thinking if I was just Black American, I'm seeing that everyone's face is lighting up when you hear Caribbean, like, oh, Caribbean. And it's like, you don't really have that shared experience for years. That's like you feeling excluded in some way. And like you said, maybe that's the reason why some people, they start saying, well, you know, my great grandmother was this and that. And, you know, like, you know,
And I'm not trying to judge those people, but like what Kayla said, it does get annoying when people lie about their heritage. And also, it's also messed up in a way too, because some of us, we get scrutinized just for being from a different country too. So, and you know, plus being Black as well. So it's like, but I get it. They have their reasons of why they did that, and I can't judge them as long as it's not in a malicious way. Okay, I'm not gonna judge it. But if it's malicious, I'm judging you. But I get it. I could kind of resonate with similar things because I was questioned about my heritage too. Like no one ever questioned me about my race because it's clear that I'm Black. It's clear, like you can see it everywhere. But no, not race. No,
ethnicity? Is it ethnicity?
Yeah, ethnicity. Thank you, Kayla. Why my race was never questioned, but my ethnicity definitely was questioned all the time. So it was annoying. I do understand where Black Americans are coming from. I do understand them.
It is sad. It's a lot of misconceptions with a lot of stuff. But Black Americans do deserve to feel like they don't need to be questioned. Their culture is still very apparent, and their culture, one thing I can see with Black Americans, period, their culture is very rich. You know why? Because people love Black American culture.
Yes.
Period. You know what I mean? People find their hardest to assimilate to Black American culture. Mm-hmm. It's fun. It's lit. You know what I mean? What is lit?
Yeah.
Lit is Black American. You don't hear no Caribbean people. We don't know what lit was. You know what I mean? That's Black American culture. We're all assimilating to it. Even the white counterparts are assimilating. Everybody, white, blue, Black, orange, Pacific Islander, this, that, all kind of Native American, people assimilate to Black American culture, it is very dominant. Like, it's literally one of the most dominating cultures in America, I believe. This is my opinion. I mean, everyone wants a slice of their pie. Like, everyone wants to be Black. They don't say that, I want to be a Black Caribbean. Most likely they think about Black American. You know what I mean? Most likely not think about, I definitely want to be Latino. Maybe there's some people that's like that, but talking about like Black American people. So we need to start putting some respect on their name. They definitely have culture. The culture is very dominant in the media, dominant outside, everything. And that's why we talk about cultural appropriation, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it goes to all other cultures as well. But what is the most appropriated culture in America? Oh my God.
Black American
culture, right? So we have to talk about that. And when you was talking about like assimilating into culture, I assimilated more into Black American culture because I had more of a Black American experience as I grew older and I started shifting Caribbean American culture. And it all started when I started college, because now my scope is bigger. I'm not in private school with a whole bunch of Caribbean people. Who would I gravitate towards? People who look like me. And people who look like me were, of course, some Caribbean people, but a lot of Black American people. So it's just like in the media, I don't see a lot of Caribbean people. I see a lot of Black American people. What do I listen to? I listen to a lot of Caribbean music, yes. But I listen to a lot of Black American cultural music, like, rap and this, that, and the third. And I'm not saying that Caribbean people do not have rap and everything.
For the most part, like, especially American genres, it comes from Black Americans. So logically, we are assimilating on Black American stuff too, in a way, because, for example, hip hop, there are people from the diaspora doing rap in the America too. So it's like, as long as we acknowledge where it comes from, that is fine. And as long as we also work with Black Americans within any type of material that we are doing, that is fine too. That but of course, it all depends who you talk to, because for some Black Americans, that is fine. For some Black Americans, that is a no-no. That's like culturally appropriate. So it's like, it all depends. But as long as you give, to me personally, as long as you give genuine credit, and especially if you're a Black person, it's not as much of a problem. The issue is when you're a Black person, try to be ignorant, try to disrespect Black Americans on top of that.
We don't engage in their culture. Cause we do. You know what I mean? We do, because we're multifaceted, because we're not living in Trinidad or the Honduras or we're living in America. So it's like, I do understand we can't really change where we're residing now.
Yeah, we can.
We had to in some way assimilate. So I understand that, but like you said, the problem is like disrespecting the culture we're assimilating to, or in engaging in. Yeah. Because we assimilated to them. We had to give them some credit. Great credit is due, but also at the same time, it's still a part of where we are. That's part of our identity as well. You know what I mean? We can't change the fact that we're still part of our identity. Because not by Black Americans, it was forced on us, but it was forced by the system. So we're Black, period.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's like, we can't really, it's not like we're like, oh no, I ain't Caribbean, we're out here knocking on the doors, like, no, don't, like, we grew up in an era where we had to just say we're Black, like, and that's just, we're Black American. That's just what it is. So it's like, that's something that I feel like is kind of ingrained in us in some way, but I do feel like it's okay to have a distinction where, as we was growing up, our experience was more Caribbean. Not for everybody, of course, but for I guess for me and you, it was more like Caribbean. But then there has been a shift. There has been a shift there somehow.
Kayla was born in the United States. I was born in the United States. So we automatically have to assimilate with every culture. But let's be realistic, everyone who's watching this right now, the dominant Black culture in this country is Black American culture.
It is.
So obviously, Kayla and I were going to be assimilated into that culture, and then also the content that we watch is Black American for the most part. Then also, like for example, at my school, when we celebrate Black History Month or certain types of special events, most of the people that we always celebrate on these holidays are Black Americans.
Yeah.
So that's like our way of, getting informed, respecting Black American culture, trying to celebrate all these legendary Black people that got us to where we are today.
Yeah, we still experience a lot together. Like, harmony, like it as a harmony. Like we still like experience everything together. So it's just like we had to start gatekeeping certain things. Like not everything needs to be a shared experience with people who are ethnic too, from ethnic backgrounds. Just because they're from ethnic backgrounds doesn't mean that they share the Black experience or they should have a look or a peep into the Black experience. That's a problem.
Concluding statements and the outro of this video. I hope you all learned something from me and Kayla. Kayla and I, we meant everything that we said and shared our experiences to the best of our abilities. And also, I'm starting to learn that it's not good to keep everything secretive, but of course, I'm not going to say everything because some things are secretive. Some things are not meant to be shared on the internet. But I really wanted to talk about this topic, and I thank Kayla for doing an amazing job as usual. Thank you so much if you made this far in this video. I appreciate you. Be sure to please like this video. Please comment. Be sure to check out my social media and Kayla's social media. I'm going to leave everything in the description. Yes. One more thing. If you made it this far and you have not watched my Janet Jackson video, please watch my Janet Jackson video. The most recent Janet Jackson video. I know it's a long video, but it took me a long ass time to make that video and like it, because clearly I have haters disliking the video. Like, who dislikes Janet Jackson? Only a dumbass. But anyways,
it was nice talking about this. It was great. Hopefully we have more conversation about Black culture, Black Latino culture, Black Caribbean culture, and just, a Black person in this big world and our shared experience and experiences in general. Thank you everyone for listening and tuning in. Peace, mi gente.
Peace, mi gente.